you know, there are times when I've been like at shelter, Timmy can be playing something and I know, my ears know he's playing three things and he's been playing three things for 2 minutes. May not be a big deal to some, but I know that that is a complicated move. And I'm looking around like, does anybody even realize what's going on? And, you know, a lot of times they don't. And I'll look for that person in the room. I'll go across the room to be like, oh my God, do you hear this? You know, to the people that can understand it and appreciate it. And those times when we would all be at like shelter at 7 in the morning and everybody is quiet and everybody is dancing and everybody is lost. And I miss those times for sure.
So today is Monday, January 27th. Who are we speaking with?
You're speaking with Red, also known as Redness.
I love that brand. Tell us about how you came up with Redness.
Actually, a friend of mine said to me once, many, many years ago, she said that I was an aura. And so my red went from like a person to a thing. So that's where redness came from.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Let's hit it off out the gate. What do you want your legacy to be?
Oh, wow. Wow. I just want to be, you know, I want to know that people had a good time. That I was, oh, what's the word I'm looking for? That I was real is absolutely a thing I would like to be part of my legacy, that I kept it real, that I was kind. And, but mainly, you know, as far as this business goes, that people had a good time at my events and that, you know, they were, I hate to say drama free, but looking at the way that things are now, that's a thing. That we were here for the party and for shenanigans and for laughs, and that's pretty much all it should be. So, yeah.
I want to get into Soulgasm. So my first question before I ask you to describe the party is, how long did that party run?
Soulgasm started in 2006. And well, actually 2005, 2006. It's a hard it's a hard call right there. But just know we're coming up on what will be the 20th anniversary. So it started there and it was hosted by Ejo. Ejo pulled me in as a guest host. And then the rest is history because I came from a background in advertising. So I kind of knew what needed to be done. I could see it. And so, you know, by the time Ejo came back, they were like, well, she can't leave now. She's got to stay. So there you go. The rest.
What was the secret? What was the secret to your success?
You know, there was no secret. I came in, I saw where it could be promoted in a different way or in a bigger way. You know, and we had different aspects. I guess I was more of the I guess business part. Ejo's definitely more of the social, bringing in the dancers and everything. And then we had Brian Cox, who just as long as he played the music right, we were good. And you know, and Brian was very versatile, so we had a nice versatile crowd. And I will say that I was told many years ago by a young lady, because Soulgasm was small, and if you came in and the dancers have their hard circle, it would be intimidating because you literally had to go through the circle to get into the party. So I would sometimes see people and I'd go to the door and take them by the hand and walk them through the circle. And a young lady said to me that it meant so much to her that I had done that, but that I asked her name. And when she came back by herself, I remembered her name. And she said that just the fact that I remembered her name made her feel welcome, and it made her feel like I can go here and feel safe. And so she told me over the years that anytime she saw me somewhere, she felt safe. That meant a lot.
There are many memories from Soulgasm. Tell us one or multiple stories. Like what's like top of mind, something that's memorable, interesting, unforgettable, that's like, oh my God, this is why I do this shit.
One, I guess it's sort of a story. It's when we finally, Soulgasm was 2 floors. It didn't start off as 2 floors. It was one level. And when we got to the point of having enough people come in there on a Wednesday night, that we were able to ask for the second floor for guest DJs, that was a big deal for us. And the fact that then I did the bookings for the second floor. So every week we had two DJs. You had 3 hours. It didn't matter if you ever played outside before. It didn't matter if anybody knew who you were. You got 3 hours. So you better tell your mother, your brother, your sister, everybody to come on, because this may be the only shot you get. If we like you, we'll invite you back. If we don't, you had 3 hours. So, and that was a lot of fun, because when I put the list together, of all the DJs that had played, it was over 300 people, which I know that you saw the list because you shared it. And that was good to know that, that many people it got the opportunity, to be a part of that. And some of those people, like the Martinez brothers played, Jelly Bean played, Ruben Toro played, Spinner played. So those were all great things. A fun story is one New Year's, we were doing an after hours party that started at 4 a.m. It's going from 4 to 12. And Sting International was having a party somewhere else, and his party got shut down. And all of those people showed up to our party who had never been to Soulgasm before. And it was absolutely bananas. And they learned that night. And it was awesome. And there are so many stories of just dancers from out of town making it a priority to come to Soulgasm. We've had nights where we had like the Polish girls versus the Japanese girls, and that versus is a good thing. They're just dancing and feeling each other and vibing and having, guys, dancers from Africa come and just all over the world, and make it a priority that they had to come to Soulgasm. And that's awesome, and it's also an honor, to be thought of in that way.
So tell us the Soulgasm story and the origin of the name. Like, tell us, like, paint the picture in terms of weekly party, venue, location, day of week, like paint that foundational picture.
Soulgasm was actually started by Ejo and Jesus Headspins, with Brian Cox actually it was really started by Jesus and Brian. Rest in peace, Jesus. And Jesus always wanted Brian to play more tribal. That was something he would say, play more tribal. And Brian didn't want to. And then Ejo was brought in as the host. And then shortly after is when Ejo went to travel. So that's really, it started at Sin Sin, which was down on 2nd Avenue and 5th Street, a little bit before I was there. And as I told you earlier of how I ended up getting involved, but that's how Soulgasm started. Soulgasm, the word itself means an orgasm for the mind, body, and soul. It's an actual word. And so that's, where that word would come from and why it would be relative to something like that. And I guess when we came in, we were more like, you don't need to play more tribal, just play well. Play whatever you want, have a good time. And I started, we gave out flyers, and this is the time of paper flyers, and just come, just inviting people. It was on a Wednesday night, and we were up against Louis Vega's party over at Cielo. And we were also up against Rich Medina's party at APT. And our party started after those. And somehow we were, as I always called it, the little party that did. And it was all completely different vibes. And we weren't against each other, because those other parties, we would sometimes leave and run over to one of those parties, and we're all friends. So it was never a competition per se.
And then, given your marketing and advertising background, how did you apply that to Soulgasm?
The flyers, getting the flyers together, I started doing a weekly flyer that was more than just one thing. I would often take photos that I took a lot of photos, early Soulgasm, and then I'd take one of those photos and make the flyer out of it. Part of that was so that people would see themselves and feel like, oh, wow, they see me. Now I'm on a flyer, I have to go to the party. But also, like, these are our people. Why would we have strangers you know, when these people were there dancing it up last week, or just making fun flyers. A good story is some crazy dude actually came and attacked Brian Cox at the club before the party started. He was, I hate to say crazy, but he was crazy. And he sort of had Brian worried about coming in the next week. Like this guy said, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be waiting for you. They had no issue. We don't know what this guy's problem was. So the next week, Brian came. He was prepared. He got there early. The guy showed up. Brian clocked him. He was prepared again. Brian clocked him, knocked him out of the, basically, no one else was there except like the club owners and stuff. Brian basically beat him out of the club. And we laughed and we laughed and we laughed about this because it sounds scary, but it wasn't as scary as it seems because Brian was so prepared. So the next week, I figured out how to make a GIF out of our flyer so that it flashed, and it was Soulgasm and Packs a Punch. And it was a boxing glove flashing in and out. Like we would have fun with flyers that way, and you know, I'd have like a dancer upside down, Soulgasm, you know, turn over. Like I'd make the little, you know, the words go with it and just have fun with it. So I have such an collection of those flyers, and they were a lot of fun to make. And then I burnt out. I couldn't make any more. But that was a lot of fun.
What was the hardest part about being a promoter for Soulgasm?
There really wasn't too much hard, you know. Me and Brian's one of my best friends. Ejo is, you know, considered to be my brother. So, I mean, we had disagreements and things like that, but it really wasn't hard. It was a lot of fun. And the staff where we were, they were awesome. They loved us. You know, they went above and beyond to make sure that we had the party because they loved our party. They loved our people, their security. Like they were all involved. We were all like a family, you know. And yeah, they let me go behind the bar and make drinks. Like we just had a good time. We had a good time.
So let's go back to the beginning. Where were you born and where did you grow up?
Oh wow. I was born in the Bronx and I grew up in Co-op City in the Bronx. And a nice fun fact about me, a personal fun fact, a couple of years ago, my mom became ill and my mother told me that I was adopted. So I found out I was adopted and I found my birth family is in Jamaica. I met my birth mom and things like that. And so now I've learned that I am 100% Jamaican. But I was
Wow.
still born here.
Wow.
Yeah. So
And then did you have brothers and sisters?
I was raised as an only child, but now I have 3 brothers and 3 sisters.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Um, Tell us about what kind of music did you hear around the house growing up?
Oh, I heard a lot of Temptations, Spinners, Teddy Pendergrass. My mother loved Dionne Warwick. My father did not. Um, uh, you know, the Jackson Five and all that kind of stuff. And then my own music, you know, the early rap days, um, the secret cassette tape days, the mixtape days, you know, Roxanne, and all this kind of stuff, and New Edition, and even Menudo, because I was making a joke the other day that me and my young Black girlfriends, we followed Menudo, you know, as just girls like with crushes. And then when New Edition came, we were like, hold on, Latins, we've got some Blacks here. See you later. And that's with all due respect, because we had, you know, seeing ourselves. And a lot of that stuff. And then I myself just am really, really versatile in my musical taste. So I've listened to everything. I used to lay awake and listen to DJ Disciple show, which was followed by like death metal. And I would keep it on, which is why I know some death metal and things like that. Yeah, I was open to it all.
Tell me about your first clubbing experience. Where was it? When was it? How old were you?
My first clubbing experience, it's a little bit convoluted. I don't know if it was Snobbusters or if it was Mars, but all I know is that I stayed up late. I was told that we were going to be getting to a club at like 4 a.m. It was a whole thing. I already knew, some of the people that were involved in going to the club and some of the DJs. I had already had some mixtapes, some house music mixtapes. But I'll say that it was probably Mars, and we got there, and it was incredible. And it was one of the first times where I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be. I will say it's worth mentioning that I went to the Bridge Street Loft where Herb Martin was playing. And it's one of my fondest and first memories of being at a party. And he played Harvest for the World. I remember it clearly. And I leaned up against the wall and I cried. And it was because I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be. I had gone to R&B clubs and hip hop, and I was like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be. And it was such a moment for me. And I always compared it to puzzle pieces. You're trying to fit a piece into a puzzle it doesn't belong to. And when I found my puzzle, my piece fit in.
Describe your relationship with house music.
Mm. I love house music. House music I think is an interesting title because back in the day, house music there weren't all these genres. And so there is so much more, like to me, Michael McDonald and all these other people, that's all still house music. And so it's interesting when you say this, it's sort of a little bit fractured these days because of the way it's been separated. I don't get it. I don't know why we're doing that. But I love house music. I will say that I listened to so many DJs mixes during the time of Soulgasm. I mean, we're talking, I'd be listening to 3 DJ mixes a day so much that there was a long time where I stopped listening to house music at home. Um, because I wanted to enjoy it when I go out and not be it was just too much. I listen to a lot more now. And I don't necessarily listen to anybody that I would hear outside because I don't see like why I'm going to hear those people. So I'm definitely open. I listen to other things and try to make it still new to my ears. And I will say, as far as the music itself, the music has created lifelong relationships for me. So it's so much more than just the house music. It's the whole experience, it's the whole social aspect. You know very well that the people who are really in this, it's not something that's passing, it's a whole lifestyle. And so we plan things around it. And so I'm one of those people. I'm one of those people, and I'm grateful for it.
So my next question is, how would you define soulful house?
Ha, I don't even want to answer that question because I really don't know. I don't know. I don't know because I don't know why we need that title again. I don't know why we need soulful house or this house. I don't know because it makes me think of like R&B that's been remixed at this point. I don't know. There's so many because that's like saying, is soulful house different than Jersey house, which is different than Chicago house, which is different than, I don't know. I don't want to define it.
Fair point. Soulgasm was one of the few places that had a very long DJ residency.
Hmm.
What happened to the DJ residency, and is that still important today in establishing a DJ's career?
Uh, okay, that's a good question. The residencies still exist. Back then we did weekly parties and we did them successfully, and we had it full every week, which is not a thing anymore. Um, these First of all, the people that I know, we're older, so we just simply can't do that anymore. And a lot of younger people that I'm in touch with, they're really interesting. Well, I was talking to a 25-year-old on a Saturday night. It was 2 a.m. And there was an after hours party that was going to happen after. And I saw her, she was a great dancer. And I said, you should really stay for this next party. You would love it. And you don't need to pay. You just hang out and just, you'd be a great fit for it. And she told me that she had class on Monday at 10 a.m. And I just thought, wow, you guys are not like us. But I digress. Back to the residency, it's different now. People sort of do things where it's like maybe once a month, or they spread things out. They do once every 3 months so that people have to wait and want, because it's just not that easy anymore. And I can say as a promoter, you know, having to deal with the bookings of having somebody different for each event, it's not always easy, and as time has gone back in the day, it really didn't matter who you had. These days, people get politically connected and all of these things. Somebody's crying over here about who's doing the sound or who's, and we didn't have all that. So it's not as much fun as it was when we were younger. We just, so the residency, also, the locations, you have these places, and either if you have a private spot, you're paying for it most likely, or you have an overhead, and people don't want to take on that responsibility. So it's not as easy to have a residency as it was. You can do a one-off, in special events and things like that, and hope for the best. But it's not, and really, to have a residency, you need to be really consistent these days. And people are so people follow the DJ, which is a blessing and a curse, because as I've said, people follow the DJ, but it's not always for the right reasons. Doesn't mean it's the best DJ. They like to go where somebody knows their name, and then they complain. I was seeing some people making some complaints about, why doesn't this DJ who's been doing this for 30 years play differently? And that's just, to me, that the ego that's involved in saying something like that is ridiculous. And secondly, this person's been doing this for 30 years. Why don't you go somewhere else? Why should, I don't understand. You have all these options. Why do you need to complain about any of it? Just don't go. Go somewhere else. You have options. And I find that to be, I don't know, the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing and thinking something else is going to happen.
So Bounce FM is watched by people in Japan, Chicago, LA, New York, Miami, New Orleans, Europe. I'm going to ask you a question. Paint the picture of the current New York City house music scene as a New York City resident. So if somebody from Chicago or Atlanta or LA or Tokyo is coming to New York, tell them about the New York City scene.
The New York City scene, more than likely, you're going to have to go to Brooklyn, because everything seems to be in Brooklyn right now. They seem to have the space and the clubs and the warehouse and the, Manhattan is, the parties in Manhattan are far and few in between. You're going to see a lot of the same faces at the different events. We still have the parties where it's not all full of people with their cameras and things like that. But that is also a factor. I'm not really sure how to explain that. It's so hard to describe the whole scene, because it's just so different than what it used to be. I feel like it doesn't have as much soul, is a good word. It doesn't have as much soul as it used to, and connection as it used to. We have our social connections, but there's a lot of other things that, it's people just come in and they do what they do. It's sort of like a sort of robotic. And before, we would close our eyes and get lost for hours. And that doesn't happen as much anymore.
Why do you think that is?
because people are focused on other things as opposed to just the moment. There are times when I've been like at shelter, Timmy can be playing something, and I know, my ears know, he's playing three things, and he's been playing three things for 2 minutes. May not be a big deal to some, but I know that that is a complicated move. And I'm looking around like, does anybody even realize what's going on? And, a lot of times they don't. And I'll look for that person in the room. I'll go across the room to be like, oh my God, do you hear this? To the people that can understand it and appreciate it. And those times when we would all be at like shelter at 7 in the morning and everybody is quiet and everybody is dancing and everybody is lost. And I miss those times for sure. It's just different now.
What happened to New York City?
These politicians and things like that, they're taking away of the spaces, the expenses and how expensive it is to do anything there. The Karens, the Giulianis, it just, yeah, basically just pushing us out, and also New York City not prioritizing the arts, because music and dancing is an art. And a lot of times, it soothes the savage beast, and they don't realize that. And we know in our scene, we've had people say house music saved my life, and that makes sense to us. And they can't see that the way we could see it, and that's it's important and it's unfortunate, you know.
Tell us a story about shelter.
Oh, shelter. Let's see. A story about shelter.
I'll tell you my story about shelter. How's that? And then you start
Please
that way.
do.
So I always loved shelter, but I wasn't a regular. But when I would go, I would get my life. And I felt like the shelter parties in New York were good, but the shelter parties at the Winter Music Conference were epic. Like epic. It was like church, the Messiah, catching the Holy Ghost. People were, I'd never forget. I don't remember what year it was. I don't remember what hotel. I'm thinking maybe it was a Shelbourne. I don't remember. I just remember it was like a curved DJ booth. Timmy was up there. Dreads were shaking the way Joel closed out, fixed his shoulders, right? He has his shirt off as always, Diesel, working whatever.
Right.
There was an Asian guy in front of the DJ booth. I remember he had on like a green and yellow shirt, like a Brazilian soccer was the thing or whatever. It was a green and yellow, like Adidas shirt. And whatever Timmy dropped, the guy just lost his fucking mind. Like his eyes rolled in the back of his head. Like he was just like getting his life. And I got that photo, by the way.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
To me, that is like the connection Timmy had with the audience and his ability to read a crowd and his ability to play the right song at the right time of night and connecting with that one dancer is like, anyway, so that's one of my shelter stories. So I just figured I'd tee it up. But anyway, I'd love to get your shelter story.
Oh, I'm still kind of lost on the shelter story.
Or it could be more than one. It doesn't have to be one.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to, there's so many things in my head. Oh wow. Can we come back to that one?
We can. So let's start from the beginning. Once again, paint the picture of what shelter is for those that don't know. And then how did you discover shelter and your involvement in shelter?
Shelter is a long running party. We're going on the 34th year. And speaking of residency, 34 years, same DJ. That's yeah. And it's still relevant and still fresh and still fun to listen to and not stagnant. Shelter is exactly what it sounds like. It was the shelter, a safe space for people. I discovered Shelter a few months after the garage closed, where all the garage people were like, "Hey, we don't have a place, we don't know," and Shelter happened. So I was a part of that. I call myself a Shelter baby. I was at Shelter from the beginning, um, and so it's interesting that people think I was at the garage. I wasn't. I just, again, it's that puzzle piece fitting in. I feel like I was, um, but Shelter became the safe space, and just it was just so it was so much fun, and it was so carefree, and um it was just beautiful, really. It really was. And all these years, it still remains a safe space, and the Shelter crew, the Shelter staff, however you want to call it, have gone above and beyond all these years to still make sure that those same people that were there from the beginning are pleased and happy. And these little things that we want so much, as a wood floor or a great sound, Shelter has consistently done these things. And it's still an amazing party.
Tell us a story about Body and Soul.
Oh, Body and Soul. I could tell you a story about Body and Soul. Body and Soul, when it started, it was mostly Shelter people in the very beginning. And then it gradually grew into a lot of white gay men, which was fine. And Shelter people are known to have, as I call it, places, everyone, where you could clap your hands and say places, and everyone would scatter and know exactly where in the room they belong. And you could walk into Shelter and say, okay, I know this one's going to be over here, this one's going to be over there, because that's just what we did. You had your space. And I had a space in front of the speaker at Body and Soul. And I would, we would just be crazy. We'd have so much fun. And then these white guys came and they started being in my space. But they're not part of that. So I had to respect that. But I also was like, but this is still my space. And so for a few weeks, we sort of went back and forth about this little space, and went back and forth until finally one day I was like, why don't we work together? And that was a guy who is still my friend today. We actually spent Gay Pride together last year. Because once we did that, we just hit it off, and it was like, that's what the club was. We found a way to embrace each other as opposed to be against each other, and it made all the difference. And then for years after that, we danced together, we held down our space together, and we're still friends. And that's a good, to me, representative of what the clubs were like. Body and Soul itself was just bananas. We were crazy. We were so crazy. We had outfits. We had just shenanigans. It was such a moment in time. Decorations. Yeah. Body and Soul was awesome.
Tell us about the Body and Soul sound and the Body and Soul experience.
The Body and Soul sound, you have 3 DJs, and each one has their own distinct sound. And if you're familiar with them, you can close your eyes and you'll know who was playing the song that you're listening to. And somehow those 3 distinct DJs have made it all work together, and it's awesome. And they each have their skill set, I'll say. And it's exciting. It's still exciting, It's still, you have sing-alongs, you have, Danny for his sing-alongs, you have Francois, who I watch him and I'm like, he's in another world when he's playing. He doesn't even know that you're there anymore, because he goes into a trance. And then you have Joe, who's just like, gonna bring it and make you think and possibly break the stuff, as he has done, because he gets so excited that he's blown a speaker or two. And that's, yeah, that's a thing. Yeah. But it's awesome. Body and Soul was 2 weeks ago, and it was amazing. And of course, I went and I'm part of the balloon team as well. So we went, we did that. And as usual, we're like, okay, we're going to be tired. We're going to leave early. And of course, we're there till the end of the party because it was so good.
Tell us a story about Dance Parade.
Oh, Dance Parade. Wow. Dance Parade. I, well, last year I ran the grandstand. I've come from working with the House Coalition, which is my house in the Dance Parade, our house. That's Loft Kid Lewis and Ali Coleman, myself. And Dance Parade is just awesome. You know, I would say this, the story, Dance Parade worked, it's not just for fun. They were working tirelessly behind the scenes to get our cabaret laws overturned. The cabaret laws were started years ago because white people would go up to Harlem to listen to jazz and things like that, and our people were mixing. And you know, white people didn't want that, so they tried to figure out a way of, you guys can't dance here or you can't dance there, to keep people separate. And the laws were pretty archaic. And one of the things that Dance Parade was working for, which why it was started, was to turn over these laws and say, if somebody's in a bar and they want to dance because something sounds nice, why can't they? And there were actually laws to say, you can't move your body the way you want to where you stand. And they had zoning laws. Or you can dance within these 3 blocks, but you can't dance within these 5 blocks, which is just absolutely ridiculous. So a great thing about Dance Parade is 2 years ago, the law was overturned, and I got to stand on the steps of City Hall with the mayor, and while he made the announcement and spoke about, you know, what it meant. And that was really special. That was a big deal for the Dance Parade, and the people that were involved. And kudos to all of them for all the work that they did. Yeah, so, and then what they did was worked on the zoning laws, which was what I just mentioned of where you can dance. And they got that changed as well. And that's big, you know. So, and then Dance Parade has grown. You know, I can remember the first year we were there, I don't know how many people, but it was very scattered and scarce. And now it's like 20,000 people. And they're getting ready to start Dance Parade in Philly. So that's exciting. And yeah, and I've gone from, you know, being on the float with our house coalition to running the main grandstand, which I'm proud of for myself.
You've made a transition from being a promoter to being a DJ.
So here's how I feel about that. I will never put DJ in front of my name. I have not earned that. And I don't think it would be fair to the people who put in the years and years of work to earn that title. I can musically select, and I'm good at it. I will say that. And I've been playing, you know, a little bit here and there for years. I play every year at my birthday party and things like that. But some people heard me playing, and so, you know, they were like, "How are you not playing outside?" So I've been convinced to come outside and play some music, and I'm gonna do it, and we're gonna see how it goes, you know. But I will not call myself a DJ. But who knows? Don't worry though. If it goes well, I'm gonna have a party, and I'm gonna go call it "Cutting Out the Middleman." Sorry, guys.
Love it. I love it. So, given your experience on both sides of the table as a promoter and also as a club attendee, what separates a good DJ from a great DJ in your opinion?
um, hmm. Honestly, reading the room, skills. You know, people say, you know, that it's all about the musical selection, right? Which it is, a lot of it. But you can't compare, well, I wouldn't compare somebody who can make a musical selection to somebody like a Timmy who can do magic, who can make a new song while you're standing there live. That is an incredible skill set. And he's not worried about these DJs that are worried about who's in the room or all these things. That's just do your magic, prioritize the magic. And I see a lot of people don't do that anymore. And being able to hold a crowd for hours and to just take us on a journey, take us on a ride, as opposed to just playing music. So there's a lot of different things involved, and that goes back, I think, also to a lot of the social connections that people have. Um, it's changed things. It's changed things. So you have somebody who's not that great of a DJ, but he'll have a bunch of people there because that's their friend, and that person may end up in a position where it's kind of like, I don't know how you got here, but this person who is absolutely incredible won't be heard. So it's, there's a lot of logistics involved.
I'm going to ask you a very controversial question.
Oh boy,
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Please don't slap me. Who's your favorite DJ?
I don't have a favorite DJ. I don't have a favorite DJ. I will listen based on the mood that I'm in. I like different people for different reasons. And I definitely can't say I have a favorite DJ. It's not controversial to me at all. Because I can't, you just can't compare yeah, I don't have a favorite. I don't have a favorite. I can put on my Pandora and my station yesterday was David Morales, but a couple of days ago it's Louis Vega, and there's two completely different things. And then before that it was drum and bass. So there's no favorite. Just whatever sounds good at the moment. Now I have some favorite people, but we won't go there.
You can tell me that off camera.
Right.
So over
Still
the past,
a shelter story because I would like to tell one.
oh yes, you have one?
You know what? I have a good shelter story. It's a little bit less about the music, and you'll decide how it should be edited. I was staying at the Shelbourne Hotel during the WMC, probably for one of those amazing parties that you were talking about. And I was so excited to be staying at the hotel because one of the perks was you got to go to the events in the hotel for free. So I, wanting to, I guess, show off a little bit, came down to the party in my bathrobe, like, oh, I'm just stopping by to see how it's going and I'll be back. And yeah, just like, oh, no, me? No, oh, no, I'm on the 7th floor. No, I'll see you guys soon. Okay, bye-bye. It was so awesome. And that was one of the most fun shelter parties ever. And that was a lot, like, that was one of those parties you spoke of. It was bananas. So that was fun. And as far as the people, I could say that, for example, John Best, as a person, when I was on the other end, when I would go to the party, I thought he was so mean because he was the no man. He was the man at the door to say no. And once I became part of the team, I realized that he wasn't mean. He's just doing business. And I realized he knows the people he's dealing with. And there's a reason he's that way. And so I was privileged enough to become sort of the sweet-faced one while John's still like, no. And I got to be like, you can't, let me do it. Like, you can't talk to the people like that. But, but me and John are very close now, and I totally get it. And it's funny, just dealing with people on that social level, and the antics and shenanigans that go on at the door of all kinds of parties. And as a person who promotes, I shouldn't work the door, but I do because I love it. I love to hear all the crazy things people say when they come to the door of why they can't, what they don't, and I get such a kick out of that. I've been saying for years, I'm going to write a booklet of why I can't pay for the club tonight.
Tell us a story about working the door. This sounds fascinating. Like,
You
or
know,
even if it's not a story, paint the picture of working the door and the experiences you had and the sort of drama and BS people give you for trying to get in,
um,
or the stuff you deal with in terms of, people trying to sneak in their liquor and whatever else.
that's not my problem. That's security's problem. Because as I've always said, for me, I came from the dance floor. So one thing I'm not crazy about, like I won't go crazy about people sneaking things in or whatever. Again, not my problem. But I'm also not going to act brand new because I used to sneak things in. I might still sneak something in the party. I'm not going to lie. So it wasn't like I was like suddenly like, oh guys, now I'm in a VIP and like, I'm going to act like, no, that's not how that works. If my friends got in trouble for smoking, I probably got in trouble with them. I'm still part of the regular old me. And working the door, people come with all kinds of things. Oh, I didn't know I was going to come tonight. Um, oh, I'm just staying for a few minutes is a very big one. I'm just going to stay for a little while. Like that makes some kind of difference. I don't have any cash. So what I started doing at Soulgasm, I'd say, like I'd hang out by the door and they'd say, I don't have cash. I'd say, okay, come on, let's walk to the bar. You buy me a drink. Like you're going to do something. You need to support some kind of way. Um, and so that was, but I just enjoy the socializing at the door. Um, and then people will come and say, oh, I'm friends with the DJ. Everybody in here is friends with the DJ. So that just that's not how this works. And these people who have been doing this for many years, they know how it works. But people still gonna try. So, and I just get a kick out of it. Some people I know who work doors get annoyed and upset. I do not. And I've had people show up and give me a handful of change to get into the party. And what was I going to do? Not take it? It was the right amount.
That's so good. Of late, there's been a resurgence of reunion parties, the Loft Reunion Party, the Paradise Garage Reunion Party. What do these legacies mean today?
I think the Loft is the same age as me. The Loft is going on 54. You don't have to put my age in there. But the Loft is the same age as me. And that's incredible to me to when I go there, to know that some of those people were dancing together before I was even born. And they're still dancing together. They're still out here. Some of them are in their 80s and they are still doing it and enjoying each other. And just think of, like we think we've seen a lot, what they've seen over the years and the changes, um, you know, and with David Mancuso being just the one person mainly, that's incredible. The Paradise Garage, all of these things, basically, there's no me without them. And I definitely know that and acknowledge that. There's no Soulgasm without all of these things. And whether, it's sort of like a tree in the branches, we're definitely a branch down on the lower because we come later. My experience at Shelter is where I even would think that I can promote to these people because now I know them and I can sort of pick and choose and say these people should be here. And then you have like, the younger parties like a funk box and things like that where we're carrying it on. We're hoping to do Soulgasm's 20th anniversary next year. And that's a big deal, that also would make 20 years for me promoting. So the legacy, it's all about how the people treat it now. I often say with house music, with the people that we or I know, they hold it so tight and they say things like, oh, well, we don't want these strangers, or there's too many of them here, or whoever they are. And I'm like, you're gonna hug it so tight, you're gonna kill it. It can't be like that. You have to share its music. You have to share the dance floor. You have to welcome other people who come with good energy. I get it. If we don't want people spilling drinks and all that, then we'll let them know. But there's also a bunch of good people that want to be involved in this and want to feel welcome. And somebody welcomed us, so we should welcome them, or we won't have a legacy, So there's that. And then these people who, again, hug it so tight, they all want to have an opinion. Um, just be positive. This is being done for you. So let's just be positive and grateful that we still have it and that we're still here, because a lot of us aren't. And when it's good, it's still so good.
So well said. Let's talk about advice. What advice would you give to the next generation?
Don't worry about what other people are saying. Just do you. I think that's one of the biggest things, even for DJs. I know I used to tell Soulgasm DJs when they would get those 3 hours, don't come in here and play what you heard at another party, because we already have that party. So if you do that, nobody's going to remember you. Come in here. I want to hear what you heard in the house when you were 5 years old. I want to hear what your abuela was playing on the radio. These are the things that would touch somebody and make you stand out. We already have, these other DJs with names. We don't need another one. So what are you going to do that's going to make us remember you? That's one thing. As the business part, don't get caught up in this whole kumbaya loyalty thing, because it's not real. And I don't know where people got that idea from. And I don't say this in a negative way, but people love to say things like, oh, well, maybe if everybody got together. That's just not how it works. And it's okay. Nobody's hating anybody else. We're all still together. But like, it's house music in New York, the pickings are very slim as it is. And if somebody goes home with a nice little penny after their party, they're doing well. Now people think that they should split that in 10, and it's like, no. So just do you, do what feels right. Don't push it. If it doesn't work, it's okay. Align yourself with real people who just want to have a good time, because you can't take it that serious unless you're a major producer. You can't take giving a party that serious. You shouldn't. It's a party. Take your day job serious. Do that. But also be kind. Kindness just really goes a long way these days. Do things that allow you to put your head on your pillow at night and sleep well, and not wonder like how you could have, should have, or maybe spoken to somebody in a different way. Just try to be nice. We all got our stuff.
Knowing what you know now, how would you approach Soulgasm differently?
I wouldn't. Soulgasm was awesome. I really wouldn't. We had so much fun. We had so many different types of people. We even had a whole group of people that came from the bar across the street that we would, every once in a while, me and EJ would pop over there to have a shot. And one day we brought people back from the bar, and when I tell you, they became Soulgasm regulars and were there until we weren't. And they're still friends. I wouldn't. Soulgasm was just, it was the right thing at the right time in the right place. Yeah, that was a great experience.
Last question. If somebody wants to book the Redness to play records at their event, what's the best way for them to book you?
They can just put Redness parties into any of your social medias. Redness parties, like Visine gets the redness out. Redness parties will take you to me anywhere, and I will be doing it myself if anybody thinks that they would like to book me as their musical selector, which is so strange to say.
Thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate you.
I have one more thing to say.
Uh-oh.
Back on Shelter, because I wanted to tell an actual Shelter story. And I will say this. Back in the day, there was a time when people became very social again, and they felt like the DJ of shelter wasn't as social as they would have liked. But I found it really interesting because over all these years, um, they never needed him to be social. So it was like the people had suddenly had a change. And I was like, he wasn't your friend before. Why do you think he like, but you come here every week and he's here making for everything, through storms and snow and this, and you didn't care before. All you need to do is the music. And Timmy would come in and just do these incredible, incredible sets. And around that time, Shelter moved to Greenhouse. And I had the wonderful experience of being able to stand in the balcony, which looked directly down on him and watch him. And it was just absolutely amazing to see a master at work so up close and so just like that's what you need to be here for. Forget all that other stuff. And that's what Shelter was. Just shut up and dance. And it was a real experience.
Thank you for that story. It triggers one more question. Has the Shelter crowd forgiven Drake and Chris Brown for what they did to Greenhouse?
No, no. And I, at some point, I said, can we sue them for lost wages? I mean, come on. No, not really, because they ruined a whole moment for us, and we were having such a great time in that room. So
That
no,
was a great space for Shelter. That was a wonderful room.
it was so great. And even that, we had like an elevator to go down. The elevator guy, his name was John. He knew nothing of us. This really cool Italian dude. He fell in love with us. He couldn't wait for the party to happen every week and just to ride up and down and with our shenanigans. Like that's what Shelter and our people brought. Security everywhere would love us because we secure ourselves, which was always a joke. Like before something happens and somebody's like, "Oh, look at Pete, he's making a scene," we're gonna say, "Somebody grab Pete before he messes this up," because we don't know each other. Security's yeah. So we definitely had some good times. And I love a lot of these people.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Wema.
All right, great to catch up. Have a good day.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.